Thank you. Welcome to the County Planning Commission meeting of July 9th, 2025. We begin our agendas with a salute to the flag. If everyone will join me. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Villalobos, do you want to announce the TV coverage and continue with roll call?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning to the Commission and everyone else. Planning Commission hearings are televised live on County of Santa Barbara Television, CSB TV, Channel 20, at 9 a.m. in the South Coast, Lompoc, San Ynez Valley, San Maria, and Orchid areas. Rebroadcast of Planning Commission hearings are on Fridays at 5 p.m. on CSB TV, Channel 20. Today's hearing will also be streamed live on the county's website, as well as the county's YouTube channel, and will be available for download in a day or two. Moving on to roll call, Commissioner Cooney.
Here.
Commissioner Part.
Here.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Chair Bridley.
Here.
And for the record, Commissioner Martinez will be absent today.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we move to our projection report. Secretary Wilson, that's yours.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Would you like to go over the status of the agenda first, and then we'll do the projection report?
What a lovely idea. Let's do 4, then 5.
So, Madam Chair and Commissioners, in looking at the agenda, we only have one item on our standard agenda. And just as information to the Commissioners and anybody observing the hearing today, item number, the waive public hearing is not for action. It's just notification purposes only. So there's no action on that. We can just move into the standard agenda once we get through the administrative agenda. I can move to the projection report, Madam Chair, if you'd like.
Please.
So our next scheduled hearing is going to be on July 30th. We have 3 items projected for that date. You may notice that there is the FAMCON pipe and supply development project is going to be coming back through just for some administrative items on that. And then it's going to proceed forward to the Board of Supervisors. And then we have the Brick Barn Winery, Tier 3 and special events. And then we have a housing project in the Lompoc or the Vandenberg Village, Lompoc area. And that hearing is going to be in Santa Maria. Again, July 30th is going to be in Santa Maria. And then on August 6th, we don't have anything projected. And then we have one item projected on August 13th, which is a cannabis operation, and that's a change of operational hours that they're requesting. And then we don't have anything projected again until, and then just as a note, we did change August 13th to Santa Barbara. And then moving down into August 27th, we have long-range planning, bringing the environmental justice element, and nothing else is projected until September. Oh, I'm getting cues as I go through this. As a note, August 27th is going to be back in Santa Maria for the environmental justice element. And then nothing else is projected until next year. That's a joke. We'll be working with staff to add items to the agenda as we move forward through the summer.
Thank you. And per my request to you after the hearing last time, I think that we're having very, very light projections because a lot of these housing projects are just scooting right to plan check, right around us. So there we are, light agendas. Okay, with that, we're actually going to move on to our public comment. And I have one comment from an esteemed member of the Montecito community, Mr. John Watson.
Good morning. I'm John Watson. I've lived in Montecito for 33 years. I know that because my child was young when we moved in, and I am currently the chairman of the Montecito Board of Architectural Review, but I am not here representing them. I am representing myself. So the comment I want to make is about the Housing Accountability Act, and depending on what staff does, whether or not it exempts a number of projects, we're going to find that the character of Montecito changes significantly. When you read the Montecito land use the community plan, it talks about low intensity, but in fact, we're Papa Bear. The ordinance that we have now is Papa Bear, and I think everybody really wants Mama Bear. Can you go to the next, or Baby Bear? And what I'm suggesting here, for instance, here are the limits. The height limit in Montecito is 35. It's the largest in Montecito, Carpinteria, Toro Canyon, Summerlin, and the city of Santa Barbara. 3 of these currently have in the ordinance FARs. We don't, which means that will be front yard to rear yard setback, side yard to side yard setback. These are huge potential houses, as we have seen in Pacific Palisades and Eden with people moving in. So what I would like to suggest is that we invert that, make the ordinance not Papa Bear, but make the ordinance Baby Bear, and then empower the MBAR to look at neighborhood compatibility to determine whether or not the project can be larger, not cutting it back, which is what we have to do now. Can we go to the next page, please? So there are some, in the guidelines, there are some neighborhoods that where the FAR doesn't work. In fact, we have a spreadsheet that looks at percentiles. Would suggest that we adopt this for those neighborhoods, and I have included that live worksheet and this for, if you guys would like to get it for David to send out to you, and which would then enable people to understand where in the percentile areas you are, okay, for a given project, and have the MBA approve larger, not try to always come down from the top. I would also suggest that this is probably applicable to every single district, not just Montecito. It may not be FAR, but it may be other things as a criteria or as a way to approach objectively different ways to attack planning. Now, can you go back up, please? So the general thesis here is we've got the ordinance wrong. In fact, if you drive out from Casa de Renda, depending on what these people decide, we're going to have a 35-foot high building staring right at you, and there's nothing that anybody can do. And that's really a fault of the ordinance. And I believe the ordinance needs to be changed.
Okay.
Now, I'd like to,
Mr. Watson, you're under public comment, which is a 3-minute thing, so I think we're a little bit over that if you can wrap up.
okay, very good, thank you.
I'd like to ask a question.
Yes,
Come
me
in.
too.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, just for note, we aren't agendized to have a
Right.
discussion on this. So I looked at council as well, but we aren't agendized to have a conversation on a public comment. So I'd
So we
recommend
can't
that
even ask questions?
I'd recommend if you do ask questions, clarifying what was presented, but we can't have a discussion. If the commission does want to have that discussion, then I recommend working with Director Plow and myself to agendize an item to have a floor discussion.
Okay, I think just a couple questions. We'll just clarify what Mr. Watson presented. So Commissioner Part?
I was going to ask you if you would contact me so we could talk about this after the hearing sometime. I don't think that needs to be agendized.
No.
David has all
And
my.
and I'm actually smart enough to know the difference, so.
David has all my contact information. I don't put it out because this goes out to the world, and I didn't want everybody in the world to know my contact information, but he can send it to you.
Thank you.
Okay, best you try to contact me.
David can send it to me.
Appreciate it.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, my personal phone number and email are right there in the county website for all to see.
Okay, and I had one question too. And I may follow up with you too, and I've heard a little bit of this at different venues, so thank you for bringing it to us. Where are you with the Montecito Planning Commission? I know they haven't had meetings regularly, but this is in their bailiwick as well, right?
Yeah, they not only have light agendas, they have no agendas.
Okay.
Now, at the last meeting, I came in and had David send it to, this presentation sent to everybody, but that's where it is.
They're not
And
meeting
I
until-
have not contacted the MBAR about it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Well, with that, hopefully David can send your presentation to everybody on the commission, and I think that concludes public comment. Okay, with that, we move along to our planning commissioners' informational reports. Does anyone have anything to share? Lights on? No. Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to our minutes. We had the approval of June 4th and June 11th. Does anybody have corrections? I didn't see any. No corrections. And do we have a motion to approve June 4th? Oh, we heard Commissioner Reed first.
All right. I'll move approval of the minutes of June
Fourth.
June 4th.
And I heard a second from Commissioner Reed. All right, all in favor? Aye. How about June 11th?
I'll also move approval of June 11.
I'll second again.
There we go. Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Okay, after this, we move to our director's report. Director Plowman.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the commission. First thing I want to say is we had a wonderful barbecue that the Planning Commission sponsored for P&D staff and for all the work that the department has done and moving big projects like the housing element, the ag enterprise element, and all of the projects that we bring through development review. And we have really a lot of fun. It was at Goleta Beach, and we had, it was nice that Michael Cooney could be there, and of course John prepared all the food, the ribs and everything, and it was really a lot of fun, and I think everybody appreciated it. So I just want to say thank you. We had a pretty good a very good turnout, actually. I think we maybe over 50 people. So
Great.
yeah. I'm sorry
And
the others
14
couldn't.
dogs.
Exactly. I wanted to just share, it's been a while since we've met, so a couple of things that have happened in the past. We did have our budget workshops, which were on the 17th and 18th of June. Nothing unusual occurred during those budget workshops in relation to the department. So that's finalized, and we are now in the new fiscal year. We had emergency shelters go to the board on 6/24, and the board added one item that the Planning Commission had not added, but it was part of the state law, and it's something that we do all the time anyway, and that was standard for security. Just making sure that there's security on site for our emergency shelters. So we just took the language from the state law and put it into the ordinance. There was a grand jury report that was released, a number of reports that were released. One was on housing, and it was addressed to the county and all the cities in the county, focused on the South Coast, actually. And so we are looking at that report. We are going to be working on a response to that report. There are a number of things that we're already doing that are identified as action items or recommendations in it. I think we'll be going to the board with a response to that report in September, beginning of September. You also may have heard, and I've had some conversations with the chair about this, when the state budget was recently passed, there was some legislation that was attached to that was pretty expansive in terms of what it touched with regard to environmental review. So SB 130, or was it AB 130? Anyway, and SB 131. And they, 131 focused on creating CEQA exemptions for a number of different types of projects. Initially, it was sort of conceived as I think it was SB 609, and it was about creating infill exemptions in urbanized areas of counties, because the CEQA already has an infill exemption for cities. And it was about extending that, but it has grown, and we're going to be coming back. I've asked, I'm going to be working with Long Range Planning to come back and just give you a briefing on it, but it is housing in counties on properties that have below 20 acres, and I think it's at least 15 units per acre.
Zoned or proposed?
Zoned. Actually, I think that was actually part of 609 and was not part of the new 131. It also exempted builder's remedy projects that are under 5 acres. And then high-speed rail items, things that are a priority for the state. And then, oddly enough, manufacturing, which was not very well defined. So we're going to be doing more digging into what the impacts of the law are. But it's definitely, they did exempt, this was the other thing that would have really helped us had they done this a couple years ago, the rezones associated with your housing element.
Well,
So we would have been on time and saved over $500,000.
no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be useful in future efforts. But we did our environmental impact report in a very, very broad way, so that any time we have to come back to address no net loss, we will have already analyzed the impact with any sites that were considered. So if for some reason a site that's outside the housing element EIR gets considered, it could be to address no net loss and our housing element requirements, that could be considered to be exempt. But so that's just kind of I don't want to go too deep into it because we're not agendized for it, but it's just something to watch. And we'll be coming back with, once we get a better handle on it, with a briefing on it. Question?
Yeah, I have a question, and your thing is still on. Do you have a question?
I'll hold off for that.
Okay. In terms of, when you mentioned the builder's remedy link, that's closed now, right? Since all agencies have adopted housing, well, at least in our county, they all have adopted housing elements. So the builder, would this apply to builder's remedy cases that are pending?
We're looking into that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a question.
Thank you. Did you have a question, Commissioner Cooney? On this?
I don't know if it's appropriate to discuss it, but recently we were advised by county council that there may be a legal action pending now with respect to a particular case that we handled recently within the last few months. And if there isn't a report on it, I'm hoping there will be at some point.
Can you be more specific? Oh, we can't.
Richards, right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, when we can provide updates to you, we will.
Okay,
Yeah, we will.
that's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Did you have a
Commissioner Park?
I don't know if I'm talking about the same thing or not, but you reported on the board non-action on the Blanco Kargasaki matter a month or so ago, that it had been settled, something like that. Do you recall this?
I do recall that.
Yeah, so it was an appeal, I guess it was an appeal
Yeah, I
of,
believe it was settled. Yeah.
of something we did at the planning commission,
Yep.
and then it got settled.
It did. That's correct.
And since then, and I may be one of 5 commissioners, I got an email request that looked like the kind of subpoenas I used to draft, or a Public Records Act regarding communications. And I'm wondering if there is some kind of policy we have that says, okay, if a planning commissioner gets a direct request to supply documents, that we can turn that over to county council or P&D and wash our hands of it. because I don't think you want 5 commissioners getting 5 requests. And since they're looking at me kind of quizzically, I guess they didn't get it like I did, and in responding on their own, as opposed to some unified response through the county, even though it was not dressed up as a Public Records Act request or a subpoena or document request.
Certainly, if you receive something like that that raises questions and concerns, and it's a request for information that sort of mimics either a PRA or a subpoena, please send it to us and we'll forward it to County Council, and we will do all the coordination on that.
Commissioner Park, could you say what was the case that was in this request that seemed like a PRA?
This was a request by one of the parties, a person with the same last name as one of the landowners in the Blanco/Kargasaki matter that we dealt with. And it asked for every communication within the last 6 months. It's easy for me to respond. 1, I never look at things like that, and 2, more importantly, I never received anything like that. But it's still, it's a little odd to have received that directly.
Yes.
And I know what to do with things like that. Maybe not everybody else does, and I want to be able to feel I can just hand that over to County Council or P&D, and you guys
Yes,
deal with it.
yeah, that's correct.
So I'm going to do that, Mr. Stewart.
He'll be ready. And then just a few other items. We had the G&K appeal that was to be heard by the board on the 1st, and the appellant decided to hold off on moving forward because they were in negotiations on, I think, the height of the building. And so we'll see what happens. They may be able to settle that. If not, it'll go to the board. We have the mobile home park overlay going on the 15th, which is next week, and that'll be the last hearing before the board breaks for the summer. And they'll be gone for 4 weeks in the summer, so they will not be having any hearings during that time. And then when we come back, we are going to go to the board with a briefing on the requirements for the open space element, and that's a new law that was passed. Well, it's not new anymore, but we have to update our open space element, and in the next couple of years, we're going to have to update the conservation element. And so we are going to go to the board with a briefing on August 26th on what those requirements are and have options for them on the scope of that effort. I think that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Pardon me? Commissioner Court? No, okay. No other questions? Okay, thank you for the report.
Thank you.
That moves us along to our waived public hearing. I think we do read this into the record even
No,
though.
Madam Chair, no action required, so we can move to our standard agenda. That's that's notification purposes only.
All righty. That brings us to item 11, our standard agenda. Well, that's interesting. Look at the agenda. Huh. 9. I think item 12 was actually 10, right?
Yes.
Okay. Item 11, standard agenda. Item 1, our one and only. You'd think we'd be swifter with only one item on the agenda. I'm sorry. Mr. Villalobos.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The following is a hearing on the request of Rogelio Solis, agent for property owner HIP Garden Court LP, to consider the case numbers 24 DVP 9, case number 24 CDP 59, and to determine the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to State CEQA Guidelines, Section 15301.
Thank you. Does anyone have any ex parte disclosures they need to make? Nope, seeing none. Then we move on to our staff presentation. Mr. Wakamiya.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Henry Wakamiya, and today I am presenting the proposed HIP Garden Court LP alterations project. This slide shows an aerial image of the subject property, shown in yellow, which is located at 6689 El Colegio Road in the coastal zone of the Goleta Community Plan area. The property is zoned high-density student residential, or SRH 20. The subject property was legally developed in the 1960s with the approval of a conditional use permit for residential use. Since being approved, the Article 2 Coastal Zoning Ordinance has gone into effect, and the subject property is now located within the high-density student residential zone district. This zone district requires a development plan and a coastal development permit for development. As the existing development was legally permitted prior to the current zoning regulations, it is considered non-conforming as to permit type. So the proposed project is for a new development plan and coastal development permit that will bring the existing residential development into compliance with the current permit types required for this zone district. This slide shows a site plan of the existing residential development, which includes 6 three-story buildings that contain 153 two-bedroom units. Additional existing developments includes a basement garage, a swimming pool, and bicycle parking. The project also includes an interior remodel of an existing storage space on the ground level of Building 6, as shown in yellow on the screen. This slide shows a more detailed view of the proposed interior remodel. It proposes to convert this existing storage space into additional resident amenities, including an exercise room and study areas. The project is consistent with all applicable policy requirements contained within the county's comprehensive plan, including the Coastal Land Use Plan and Goleta Community Plan. Additionally, the project is consistent with the Article 2 Coastal Zoning Ordinance and will not exacerbate any existing legal nonconformities. The proposed project is exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15301 for existing facilities. The project qualifies for this exemption because it is for an interior remodel of an existing storage space, and it does not involve any unusual circumstances that could result in significant impacts that threaten the environment. To summarize, the project is for a development plan and a coastal development permit that will bring the existing development into compliance with the current permit requirements. The project also includes an interior remodel that will convert existing space into additional resident amenities. And as discussed, the project is consistent with all applicable standards and is exempt from additional CEQA review. With that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission take the recommended actions shown on the screen to make the required findings for approval of the project, including CEQA findings, determine the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to state CEQA Guidelines Section 15301 for existing facilities, and lastly, approve the project subject to the conditions of approval. Thank you for your time, and staff as well as the applicant's agent are available to answer any questions you may have.
Is the applicant present? Oh, okay. This is the time. I don't see any questions from the commission. Do you have a question, Commissioner Reed?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
I'm going back. I noticed on the agenda, it recognizes that this is
Get your mic
legal.
on.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I noticed on the agenda, this is legal non-conforming, having been approved in, 1965. And one of the goals is to bring the existing unit complex into compliance with current zoning requirement with regard to permits. Now, my question is, when I look at our actions, I notice there's a reference to that in our findings for approval, but what specifically are we doing that's going to accomplish that particular task in approving this? What it is normally, I would expect, in maybe my naivete, to see some kind of a resolution or some formal action, but just by approving the findings, what does that?
Chair and Commissioner Reed, hopefully I'm answering the question. Basically, the approval action of the development plan, which is the permit type they were lacking previously, pulls it out of being non-conforming because it's non-conforming as to the type of permit that they're supposed to have on record. And then once you approve the development plan, that is their permit of record, and they can operate off of that permit and modify it and operate within it.
Oh, great, I find myself enlightened. Thank you. I find myself enlightened. Thank you.
I had, and it might be kind of just an academic question, but my experience with the development plans is it kind of catches you. You really can't do anything because you're non-conforming, you don't have the permit. So this minor interior work that they wanted to do, you just can't do it because you have a code that says this development plan is required, right? That's our non-conforming to now it'll be conforming. If this was coming in today, I think the parking requirement would have required 612 spaces, but a lot of the things today might have made this just fine the way it is between all the Housing Accountability Acts and AB 2097, right? They wouldn't have had to have potentially any parking. I mean, did anyone in your nighttime insomnia wonder if this came in as a new project, would it require any parking whatsoever on El Colegio?
Chair Bradley, it is unlikely that if this project came in today, it would require any parking.
There you go. There you
As
go.
it's located within a half mile of a
Yeah.
high-quality transit.
All
so-
right. So I have no issues whatsoever. I really appreciate the staff report was very succinct and very, because normally development plans are an inch thick. So thank you for doing such a good job, and this is just an as-built. So did you have any other
One
questions?
last question. This has to do with the physical design of the remodel. Now, I notice there's just one toilet room. Is that, it's apparently adequate?
Commissioner Reed, through the chair, that is correct. We don't have a requirement specifically for the number of restrooms in a space like that.
Okay, and then in terms of intended use, I know it says for study, and you have two small study areas, 470 square foot, or 545. Then you got a big, nice one of 1,800 square feet, the central one. So are there any restrictions? Is this going to be dedicated for study? The middle room looks like it'd be great for other functions.
Commissioner Reed, through the chair, the applicant's agent is available to answer
Okay.
questions about the specific use.
Well, go ahead, and why don't you just start with whatever presentation you want to do? We're moving along.
Good morning, Planning Commissioners. My name is Rogelio. I'm the applicant and representing HIP Garden Court, who's a client for this site. And yes, when the Perry Harcourt, who's the current owner for this project, her intention is trying to put herself in what the needs are for the students. So when this was designed and laid out, we noticed like there's a lot of demand for studying from students that they just don't talk, they just study. And then there's the loud people there. So we thought about just creating two quiet spaces. And that's how we kind of named it, Quiet Study B and Quiet Study A. And then the student study is more general, a space for gathering. Can study, and they're okay studying within noise, and then they grab anything to eat from the vending machines or any book that will be available where you see that little sink there. So and it's pretty flexible, but it's only going to be restricted to the students who live on the premises. It's not going to be open to public.
Okay, so, yeah, not a party room or something like that.
No, not at
Just a
all.
multi-use room for residents, and I think the quiet rooms are a great idea.
Yeah, and we do actually have one at the lobby at the front. We created some spaces there too, but everything's strictly for the tenants.
Great, thank you.
Did this improvement to the property come about at all? The county actually initiated an inspection program to try to upgrade some of the housing in Isla Vista, but was this part of that, or this was your own initiative, right?
On initiative.
Okay.
And in fact, there's been this site went through an entire remodel back in 2019. All 6 buildings and everything was interior remodel, and windows were retrofitted, and we had a facade redesign that went through the MBAR hearing. But it's been going on since 2019.
Okay, thank you. Did you have anything else you wanted to present? I'm not sure that the commission has any other questions.
Just as far as the toilet fixtures, that was kind of more like amenity for convenience for students not to have to go back if they're on the second floor or third floor, just to kind of make it convenient to have one there. But we were not required by code to provide
Okay.
it.
I have one more question, and it's not even really land use, so just curiosity in the Isla Vista the housing market. What is your typical wait list? I mean, how often do you have a unit turnover in this complex?
When you say turnover, meaning?
Well, they turn over as the students come and go, but do you have a wait list for tenants that are seeking to get another unit? I mean, is that how you deal with the demand?
That would be, unfortunately, I couldn't respond to that question. I don't know the answer, but I know if they have a waiting list, I don't know what's the time for the waiting list or.
Okay.
But it's ever since the remodel was completed and the ads were out, and it's been pretty demanded. Yeah.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with your project. I'm just curious, so thank you. Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Rogelio, I am curious about the timing of the improvements. You just mentioned that they've all been completed and you're signing students up at this point for the coming year.
Yes. For particularly this one, ideally we would have liked to start when summer, like UCSB students were out, but it's been a long process. So there's been we just have to wait until this process is over administratively so we could start. We do have we went at risk with the building department to have that in place beforehand, but unfortunately it's still pending. But everything else has been signed off by building and safety. So it's just pending the planning department. But what's convenient about this, it's going to be phased in such a way that it's not going to impact students coming in or out because all the habitable or all the apartment spaces are above this floor. And for exit egress balconies, it's not going to block. We're not going to be blocking everything. All the entrance for the workers and stuff are going to be going directly for the exterior doors that lead to the Berkshire Road.
So, but there will be some construction continuing while students are living there.
Yeah, I understand it's going to be between 1 and 2 months for this to be completed once construction starts.
You're bringing to mind a memory I have of moving into Isla Vista many years ago, and we were told by our landlord after we paid the initial rent that all the construction would be done quickly, probably within a week. And by the end of the first semester, it wasn't quite finished. But there are all kinds of things that come up. I'm sure you're experiencing that.
Yeah, we went through that when we did the full remodel of the buildings. I mean, there was always a delay. But it seems to be like hardly any complaints about that too. I think management's been doing a good job as far as being flexible with students. I'm not sure specifically what kind of amenities they provide, as a kind of waive, for what the complications for construction might be for them. But it's been working so far good, smoothly, I would say.
That's great. I appreciate the effort owners are making.
I had one, I'm not sure if staff or you were probably involved, but so in the 2019 remodel, is that when you did the very detailed floor plans and all those plans? Because when I was looking at the packet, I was thinking, holy camole, for an as-built development plan, you had to do all these plans, or these were done anyway for the remodel?
Well,
2019.
for the building footprint's pretty much the way it is in the apartment units itself too. What we did is pretty much like the kitchen and living, everything like the common areas, that was refurbished. But the actual the layout of the bedroom and stuff, that was all intact the way it was built or permitted in the 1965.
Okay, maybe it's not quite my question. Does staff understand what I'm asking about here? Were the plans already? Yeah, I mean, these are very detailed floor plans and everything for
Oh,
the property. Did you have to do those for the 2019 remodel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
That's all.
sorry.
Okay, I got it. Just, all right. Okay, did you have any other questions? No. Seeing none? All right, thank you for your presentation and Q&A.
Thank you, and appreciate your consideration.
Okay. Well, that brings it back to the Planning Commission. So do we have, I would start up, sorry.
So I know that there's nobody in the room or
Oh,
online, but we
public
should
comment,
ask for
that's
public
right.
comment.
Do we, So we open and close the public comment period there in one swift move. All right, then back to the Planning Commission for deliberations, and I am not seeing any lights on, so it's my district, and I would say thank you again to staff for a succinct staff report, and I would move to approve the development plan as drafted and all the conditions of approval. So my motion would be to make the required findings for approval of the project, including CEQA findings, determine the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to guidelines section 15301, and approve the project case number 24 DVP and 24 CDP 009 and 0059 respectively, subject to the conditions of approval. There you go. Is there a second? Yes.
I would be happy to second. Looks like an excellent project. Looks like a sub-product of an owner that actually wants to create better living conditions for his tenants. And so I'm very happy to second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Commissioner Park?
Yes, my light is and has been on. I wanted to make a comment since owner's representative's here. I think that's a very generous thing to do to convert 4,000 square feet of storage space. And I don't imagine how you used 4,000 square feet, but you did. And to a study center and an exercise room, that's a really nice amenity. I don't know if other projects have that. I don't know if dormitories have it, but I would think the students will really appreciate that. So of course I do support the project.
Okay, so with that, why don't we do a roll call vote?
Commissioner Cooney,
Aye.
Commissioner Park,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Chair Bradley,
Aye.
motion passes 4-0.
All right. That's that. And I think that concludes our business for today. Getting really used to these summer breaks. I'm a little rusty, so I think that's it. Thank you very much.